Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show with Ashley Oldstein.
I'm
And
not Ashley Olstein,
you're not? Oh
but
my
you look
God.
like a disembodied head just floating in the darkness.
Well, what can I
Must be
say?
must be Halloween's coming.
Halloween is coming.
Yes.
And there we go. You know, um, there we go. And we are shared. So, yeah, there's been this whole. So, as always, first Thursday of the month, welcome to our monthly check-in on politics and whatever else Matt and I decide to talk about. Uh,
Oh, I have
with
an
Matt,
announcement too, but I have an announcement to make too, by the way,
good.
if you don't mind, when the time
Not
comes.
at all. I just wanted to. I'm gonna let you make your announcement in a second. I don't know if you have ever had a problem with Facebook.
All kinds of problems with Facebook. Why? What do you mean?
Well, so for some reason, somebody who we can't find out who, and we can't find out which show or blah, 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 has reported a show. So we can't create direct live on the Dr. Kevin show. So this is coming to you on Kevin Ross Emery fan page, which I have now shared over to the Dr. Kevin Ross Emery show, like you share it over to Matt Connarton, because I can share something else live, but I'm on some kind of Facebook jail, which they gave me no information, no way to protest, no way to find out what was going on. They just
Typical.
suddenly like, boom, you've been doing this for years, never had a problem. Now somebody got offended
Yeah.
at something somebody said, and we're not even going to give you a chance to like dispute it. So for those of you that are confused, you are seeing this as a share from the Kevin Ross Emery fan page to the Dr. Kevin show, or you may be watching it on Matt Connarton because you share it as well. And so I'm going to be looking for comments on Kevin Ross Emery because I won't see any comments on the Dr. Kevin show because the comments go to the actual page that's saying it. Now, if you go to the Dr. Kevin show, it should be on there and you can comment, but I'm not going to see it because I have to keep it up on Kevin Ross Emery. So it is another thank you, Facebook, for creating a multiple amount of unjumpable hoops for a problem because somebody, and I cannot believe there's anything that was ever said on this show that would be a reportable offense. But since I don't know what show and I don't know what it was, I can't even contest it. So, anyways, I just wanted to do that update for the audience because this may be a little confusing. But you can also catch us on LinkedIn. You can catch us on YouTube. Um, and welcome. So, Matt, I will now go. What is your announcement?
Well, thank you, Dr. Kevin. I appreciate it. So I haven't. This will be the first time addressing this publicly, but some expansion going on with my hypnotherapy practice. I'm going to be. So currently, I've been offering. You can do a session with me online, virtually, of course. I do home visits, or you can book an appointment with me at Birchwood Salon in Hooksett if you want to do an office visit. But beginning next week, really, I will also be doing sessions specifically on Mondays and Tuesdays each week in Nashua, New Hampshire, at the Midnight Creatives Collective. They have they call it a business bar. It's kind of a co-working space, but they also have a room that's very quiet on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I will be doing sessions there as well. You'll be able to book them right through the website at mattconnerton.com. Or you can always call me and do it, and I'll put the session in for you. But yeah, so expanding geographically my hypnotherapy practice. So I'm very excited about it. Eleanor, of course, I met with her. What was it? Tuesday of this week to kind of finalize everything. She's wonderful. She's one of the proprietors there.
Yep.
And
I know her.
they do a lot of great things there, actually. They have the Terminus Underground, the fantastic music venue. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. But I'm really excited to be a part of that.
So you're going to be there Mondays and Tuesdays. Is there going to be set hours, or you just only show up when you got stuff booked? Like, what's
I'll,
the? Give us the
yeah,
thing.
I'll only be there when I have an appointment booked. So if someone, so yeah, people shouldn't be showing up just thinking they're going to walk in and see me. You'll want to book an appointment with me if you want to do a session there. And again, I offer several different options as far as where we do it, but it's such a cool place. I'm really excited to offer this as an option. But Mondays and Tuesdays, probably until about 2 p.m. So that'll kind of be the zone. If you want to book an appointment with me in Nashua, you'll want to do it, because after 2 o'clock, that's when the building starts to kind of come alive in some ways. And so it's quieter in the early part of the day. So if it's a Monday or Tuesday later in the day, we'll have to go with one of the other options that I do offer. But I'm excited to do sessions there.
So 9 to 2, 10 to 2, more or less.
Yeah, I think 9 to 2 is what Eleanor and I had talked about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, again, I know Eleanor, and I just saw her the other day, actually.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Yes. Yes. So when you have 9 to 2, when you have a 9 to 2 session in Nashua, if you say, hey, I've got somebody booked today, but I'm going to have this block of free time between 2 appointments, or I'm going to be done at 2 o'clock, you'll have to stop by and see the new kitchen. It's
Is it done?
It's almost done. It's 95% done, and I can cook out of it.
Oh, well, that's most of the battle, right?
Yep. I mean, right now there was so it's so funny. We had an original architectural plan. Some of that architecture, upon deeper inspection, wasn't going to work. We had to make some choices, and then we did some and there was refiguring. But when they ordered the tile to do the backsplash, they ordered it on what they were going to need based on the original design.
Mm-hmm.
When it came time just last week for the splash tile to go on, they were several cases short.
Oh.
So technically, it was supposed to be done by tomorrow.
Oh, they have to order more.
And they're having to order more tile. There was also another little bit. These are all tiny little blip things. I can get up in the morning, the electricity's working, my new stove is in, my oven. I'm now in the very laborious task of cleaning everything off and then finding the new homes, putting it away, and having to kind of step it. And of course, as you pointed out at the beginning of my floating head, I have a psychic fair this weekend at the Brook in Seabrook. I have a psychic fair the following week, which I am admittedly, with everything on my schedule, I'm going to have to go and check and give you guys information. I should have typed it in, but as I told you, they updated everything in the program we use, StreamYard, and what happened was that when I came on today, there were like different interfaces and different things. Like this whole circle thing is new. If you've noticed, we're a circle.
Yeah, I like it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I decided that I liked the circle. I thought I would give it a try. I thought I would like it, and I do like it. And so I was but when I came on today, there was a whole bunch of new stuff that I had to work my way around to get to where I am. And so I was running behind, and then you were having a hard time getting in, and I'm trying to do this, get it ready to cross over, figure out where they've moved things. In fact,
Yeah.
there's a couple of things I had to really punt on to find out. But the fair this weekend is at the Brook, and it is just so people know, it is. I'm trying to now see if I can find it. I thought it was in the Brook Healing Fair. Yep.
When you're
And,
looking up Dr. Kevin, you look like you're in the Bohemian Rhapsody video for
and
Queen.
it's yeah. Thanks. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? But it's called the Brook, and it's in Seabrook. And then according to my thing, I have another one the following Saturday, and I was actually trying to see if I could find that to let people know. But so you can find me at the Brook, and then on the 12th, yeah, it's saying that I'm going to be at the event hall, the American Legion. So tune in next week. I will have updated. This weekend is the Brook. I can tell you that much. And that's this weekend. I have, because it's October, I have four events, 4 psychic fairs I'm doing this month, because this is the big month for it.
Yeah.
And so as I look at this and I do things, October 12th says Seabrook Rec Center, which it seems bizarre that we're having 2 back-to-back in the same city. The Brook is, yep, 319 New Zealand Road, Seabrook, October 5th, Saturday, which is a casino. And then there's one at the American Legion Hall that she's been doing for a long time, I guess, at the Seabrook Rec Center. And then I think that the other one is going to be at the end of the month, and I'm trying to see if I can find it just so that I can say what it is. And I'm not going to find it quickly. I think it might be in Haverhill. But we'll find out. We'll find out where it is, and just stay tuned. And I promote it all over my Facebook stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but congratulations on Nashua. Let me know when you're going to be in town. If you have any information at all, or any opportunity when you're going to be in town that maybe we can cross over. You can see that new kitchen. But to finish the story, because I splintered it. So just a few days ago, they were putting the tile and said, we're several boxes short. Well, they get the tile from California, and that's going to take at least 10 days for them to get it in. So there's these tiny little things, but I can live in my kitchen. And as of tomorrow, I can put my office back together. So I can find it out of the basement.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm in the basement. Woo! Get my office set up and find out what did I actually lose track of when my office was scattered through a bunch of boxes and 3 different spaces. And
yeah,
since the 3rd week of July.
I have a question. This might be a little bit random, but you were mentioning how October is your biggest month, obviously, for psychic fairs and things like that. What's your second busiest month? Is there another month that's particularly busy for that kind of thing specifically?
Well, I find in New England that you find several fairs that will pop up around April, May.
I suspected, because of spring and people are excited to do that kind of thing in the spring. right?
Yeah. And so I kind of look at that, yeah, that they will do that. And uh and it's very delicate. It's hard. And as somebody who has done a lot of expos in their life, um one of the problems is, thrown them as well, is okay. The 26th is in Newburyport Elks. It's the Newburyport Elks is the 26th. So now I got it out. 2 in Seabrook and 1 in Newburyport. I don't know what happened. I swore one was in Haverhill. Oh well. Uh, but you have that tricky, even May gets tricky because of college graduation,
Yeah,
Mother's Day.
right.
April gets tricky because you have to be careful of where is Easter and Easter weekend,
Oh, okay.
and then June you have high school graduations, and May, June tend to be also start to be really the beginning of wedding season.
Hmm.
And then unless you're doing an outdoor event, June, July, August is a hard time to get people if the weather is beautiful. If you're lucky enough to have a overcast, gray, drizzly day in July and your fair falls on that day, then
Hmm.
you might get packed. But if it's 75 and it's, be outside weather,
Yeah.
nobody wants to go inside.
No, I know exactly what you mean because, as I'm sure you recall, back in the day, I used to do a lot of events like that with Norm, and who, of course, is no longer with us. And yeah, it was that kind of thing. It was a beautiful day outside. It was much tougher than if it was rainy and drizzly and people wanted to actually go inside to do something.
Yep. So, yeah, there's all that strategy. When I was doing the last time I did fairs regularly, I tried one in March. It got snowstormed out.
Uh,
Then I tried one in May, and the May one went well, but the June one was and it ran up against some stuff. And for some reason, or it was the end of May and then July, and July was just dead. Nobody
mhm.
wanted to be inside. And I'm like, I'm never doing this again. So,
Yeah.
uh, though I have people that are like, well, couldn't you just maybe throw one just smaller fair a year? Because when I throw a fair, I do it right. I mean, I always advertise it and I promote it and I
Mhm.
do signage and
Oh yeah,
I,
you put a lot into it.
yeah. But I'm going to be quite honest, Matt. The ROI on being a thing, being a fair thrower is really tough
Yeah.
because if you unless you know it's something that your ROI improves over a few years. If you get an annual event and people put it in their calendar and they come back and the numbers grow. But first time events, I'm going to be uh you know oh ah and I have a comment from one of the platforms. We'll see which platform this is. I just saw a comment come in. So
Oh, from Elizabeth Towns.
oh, yep. It's just congratulating me on my kitchen almost being done. Thank you, Elizabeth. Uh, is the Nashua Center for the Arts is going to try one in the beginning of May, but it's a 1 day show and it's not, that's an interesting space, but it's a slightly awkward space. And I researched it, and I'm not like trying to say negative anything about somebody, but they're and I know because I've looked into the art center, it's very expensive to rent. So it's a very big overhead.
Hmm.
And so they're charging for 6 hours for a limited space for a first time show. Basically, what I charged for a 2 day show with all those speakers. You remember the Web of Light expos and stuff like
Yeah. Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And and they're doing something much smaller for the first time, but to cover the rent, the prices are like, and and I could literally walk to this fair, and I opted not to do it. I just think I'm like, May is still tricky weather-wise, though usually it's pretty good. Though a really nice weekend in the first weekend of May can be a killer because everybody wants to get out and do their yard work and they want to get out. But the other thing is there's not great parking downtown in Nashua. And the other thing is that I understand the logistics of we have to charge this to cover that space. But for somebody who's been doing fairs for a year, you're asking me to take a really big risk with you because you have no track record at this place at this time with this kind of event. And I looked and they've done like some American Legion Hall one-day shows here and there. I've never been to any, so I don't know the quality. I'm gonna, even if I assume that it's good, I'm still like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it, you know. I think if somebody is at a different stage in their business where these are their lifeblood and they really count on these and they have to roll the dice, it's an expensive dice roll for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to be an observer. I'll stroll down and see. Was it really well attended? Are people, because I'll know half the people there and I'll hear the dirt really quickly.
Right. Of course.
So it's a tough business. And then at the end of the day, you make about, if you're lucky, $1.50 an hour for all the time you had to put in. If that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, not going to do it. So anyways, but one last time, if you come on the show next month and you say, yeah, I've had 2 or 3 appointments in Nashua and that office looks like it's really going. And I'm going to be like, Matt, I never got a text from you. You never said you were in town. But, you know, like that we could meet at the local coffee shop and grab a cup of coffee a half an hour. I will harass the crap right out of you. So just be prepared.
Fair enough.
He says, just for that experience, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. I think it's going to be successful. I actually have an ad. Eleanor helped me with this too. I've got an ad coming out in Spectrum Monthly, and I think that's that ought to be a big boost too. You ever think about doing that? I don't know if you need advertising, but
Eleanor does. I know Eleanor does repping for Spectrum. And I have not. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say you should, if you haven't, you should talk to her, see what kind of a deal you can get. It's not very expensive.
Yeah. I will. I haven't done anything in print advertising for a long time. I'm kind of at a unique place. I have my baseline of bookings that I need to pay myself well and cover all my expenses. I kind of have that booking level already booked into the first quarter of 2025.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking because, this is one of the philosophies, because, I do work with entrepreneurs as well as the ADD and as well as the medical intuitive and the psychic and, all of the ADD poster child stuff. I'm always looking at now money now, next money next, and then down the road, like the, land in the whale, getting the, like the big things. And so I do fairs to kind of have it as my next money next, like people will cycle back. And, I hear from somebody, I saw you at a fair 18 months ago and we talked about some work and now I feel like I'm ready. And so I always want to have people in my pipeline. And so I may check out Spectrum. It might be another pipeline thing. But one of the things is if you free your calendar, because I'm an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce in Nashua. I can bring you as a guest for you to network at one of the events some night.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I would love that.
And then you can talk around. We literally, our next event is next Wednesday night. So when we're offline, if you have that available and you want to hop down to, you want to come down to Nashua, we can meet at my house. We can go over. I'll tell them I'm bringing a guest. They'll be thrilled, and I can certainly be introducing you around to some people and letting people know what you're doing.
Count me in. October 9th in the evening.
Yep.
I'm looking at my calendar on my phone. I've got nothing. Count me in. I'd love it.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I'll text you my address.
Plus, it'll be great to see you. I don't think I've seen you like actually in person in the flesh in a long time.
I think it's been since before the pandemic.
I think so. Yeah. I think that, yeah, the last time you were on my radio show. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I hardly ever get the time. I mean, I go into Manchester to get my, and I never think of this, but what I do is I go in to get my car serviced because Manchester is the closest Mercedes dealership, and I just won't let my car be serviced by a non-Mercedes dealership.
Yeah.
And I go there, and sometimes I just always wait for my car, which is 3 or 4 hours, which I could call and say, "Hey, Matt, why don't you come over and we can go for a cup of coffee?"
Right.
Except what I do is I book clients. So I'm walking around the parking lot in the Mercedes doing clients while I'm waiting for my car.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
You have to have creative efficiency if you want to be an entrepreneur and not have it eat your life.
100%. I try to create. I try to have that creative efficiency, and it all eats my life anyway. But I know exactly what you mean, though. Yeah. No, I respect that. Absolutely.
When I don't know if you remember when I had a stint when I first came back from Phoenix, that I was doing work twice a month in Portland, and I had to drive from Nashua to Portland, not a short drive. And I would say 75% of the time, I could get at least one, if not two appointments scheduled on the drive to Portland, and sometimes 1 to 2 on the way home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm getting paid for my commute.
Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah. I mean, these are the things that can make the difference between having a life and not having a life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. See, unfortunately, in my case, I don't think I could do that with hypnosis. No. But
well, we've talked about expanding what you're offering, though, and some of that could be done that way.
Yeah, I do have a life coaching certification now.
Yep. And, the thing is I would never schedule an appointment to be driving somewhere that I didn't know like the back of my hand.
Right.
Dangerous driving. But like if you're going to be on, 95 and Route 3 and you're just in the zone driving, I can be on the phone and still, I mean, hands free, of course.
Yeah.
No
ticket. You don't want to be.
Officer. Huh?
You don't want to be in a situation where you're distracted by a GPS while you're on with a client, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to miss a turn because I wasn't able to pay attention. So
right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a balance. You still have to be respectful and be able to give the client what they deserve.
Yeah, of course.
But so yeah, it's just just being creative. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see you expand out your offerings and putting out a little bit more mat to go around.
Yes. I hadn't thought of it quite that way, but yes. There's plenty of me to go around.
I'm not talking physically.
Me neither. Me neither. I'm Irish. I have no room to talk.
So I'd like to at least take a few minutes to talk about the political developments. We haven't talked since the presidential election, since the vice presidential election, and now the unsealed paperwork from Jack
I assume
Smith.
you mean the debates.
What did I say?
Elections.
No, debate.
I was afraid you had time traveled and you forgot that you would come back.
I have time traveled.
Oh, who wins? No, don't spoil it.
Yeah. Well, let's put it like this way. It's a good indication that I bothered to come back.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd be like, I'm just going to keep time traveling to another 20 years when we recover from making a stupid mistake.
Well, good. That'll help me maintain my cautious optimism.
So, yeah, presidential debate, vice presidential debate, and the unsealing of the Jack Smith stuff. Share some thoughts. Tell me what's going on.
I really liked the vice presidential debate. Believe it or not, as cynical as I am, I thought it was good in the sense that, well, there was a good thing and there was one disappointing thing. The disappointing thing, of course, is I was hoping that JD Vance would crash and burn in embarrassing fashion, and he really didn't. But the good thing about it was it was very. Some people are critical of it. They think it was too Midwestern nice was the phrase I heard today. But I liked it because there was a lot of policy discussion. You know, they didn't stand there and throw personal insults at each other. They actually did talk about policy, so much so that they couldn't help but even stumble into some areas where there might be some common ground. But I thought it was a constructive discussion. And JD Vance did do better than I think probably anyone expected. And again, don't get me wrong, I think JD Vance is a despicable human being. But I think that, but I actually enjoyed the debate. You know, I like the circus of it all and everything, but I also really enjoy an actual discussion of policy. I like that stuff. So I thought it was refreshing in that way. But I also think that if you think back to prior election cycles, I think the vice presidential debate usually ends up being the most substantive. The presidential debates, there tends to be a lot of discussion of broader concepts, and there tends to be, you know, obviously whether it's Trump versus Biden or Trump versus Kamala, you end up hearing, you know, personal insults and ad hominems and all of it. But the vice presidential debates, there tends to be more discussion of actual policy. I think part of the reason that happens is with the two VP candidates that you have there, again, in any given cycle, they're each going into it with, you know, their objectives, their individual objectives are not necessarily to attack each other, but to attack their respective bosses. You know what I mean? So Tim Walz, his agenda was not to attack JD Vance, but rather to attack Trump. And Vance's agenda was not really to attack Tim Walz, but to attack Kamala Harris. So, and I think, you know, that's usually how that plays out. If you think about vice presidential debates, that there usually winds up being, for that reason, a lot more discussion of actual policy instead of things getting very sort of personal. I mean, the only glaring exception I can think of off the top of my head is, of course, Lloyd Benson versus Dan Quayle. Those of us who are old enough still vividly recall, you know, I knew Jack Kennedy, you're no Jack Kennedy. You know, so there are exceptions to that. But this was a good debate, I thought. I agreed with what Tim Walz even said at the end. He said, I think this was a healthy debate. And I agreed with him. And it was kind of nice too, you know. Again, this might sound strange coming from someone who can be very cynical, but you know, I sat and watched, because I went to the event at Chunky's here in Manchester for the Kamala Harris, you know, the local campaign organization was putting on a watch along, you know, and you know they had free food, which is great. I like the free food, but it was good. Those mozzarella sticks at Chunky's are incredible. But so I sat and I stayed in my seat, you know, at the end because they were showing it. The CBS news feed, you know, they showed Tim Walz and JD Vance kind of talking, and it looked like they genuinely, like you could kind of tell, it looked like they both genuinely enjoyed the debate, and they seemed to be very friendly with each other. And I remember thinking, you know, I'd be interested to hear more, you know, take the debate out of it and just the two of them on a television show or a podcast or something, just sitting and talking. I think that would be interesting. So I really I enjoyed the debate very much. Did you watch it?
No, I actually watched the presidential debate.
Oh yes, that was great too for different reasons. But yeah, that was great
too. I didn't couldn't work it into my schedule to work the vice president debate. I've been trying to follow up, and I've seen a couple of little clips. And in fact, one of the reasons I was like, oh, good, Matt's going to be on the show. He'll fill me in on the important things in the vice presidential debate because I didn't get to watch it. Though I was in Chicago and I was just like, wherever I am, whatever, I need to watch this debate. So I watched the debate go back and forth. I mean, I do know I saw that. And I don't even know if polling is even valid anymore. I'm starting to lose all faith in any kind of polling. But they said that one of the numbers that stood out to me was the approval rate for Tim Walz was 58% among independents. And that's the swing state of voting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I don't think the debate itself has any, the vice presidential debate, I don't think it has any bearing on the election at all. And in terms of presentation, again, I don't like JD Vance, but in terms of presentation overall, I would call it a draw. But I do think when you take JD Vance away from the debate and just out on the campaign trail and interviews at rallies, he says so much bizarre stuff and, perpetuating the lie about the Haitians eating the pets and all that kind of stuff. I think that, he probably has a pretty severe trust deficit among independents, whereas they do trust Tim Walz more. He's gotten caught in a couple of things where he seems like he might not have been completely honest himself, but overall, I think he comes across much more trustworthy than JD Vance. So I think independents don't trust JD Vance at all, and I don't imagine that independents who don't trust him, I don't imagine that they were swayed much by the debate itself. Again, I don't think the debate itself is a factor in anything, really. I just, for a political nerd like me, it's exciting. But there's also a lot of data and theories that vice presidential candidates really don't make much difference anyway. That when people go to vote, they're voting for the top of the ticket, and that the VP candidate really doesn't matter that much. There's competing theories on that, but
this I mean, blessings that Biden did not stay in, but at this point there has to be that independent that thinks Trump is looking haggard. He doesn't have his energy level. He is being consistently more incoherent. His claims and his promises are getting even crazier.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And if I were on the swing and it was Biden and Trump, I would be thinking, would I rather have Kamala Harris or JD Vance get promoted because of incompetency or death to the lead role? I mean, and Trump's bigger than life vigor has become almost a cartoonish, thing, and it's not looking as big. And in the presidential debate, he looked really small. She stalked him, and I mean, at night, if somebody wanted to scare little Trump babies, Kamala Harris, a powerful Indian black woman, would be the person who would do it. It's like their worst nightmare. An empowered, intelligent woman. No, it doesn't exist. It's an oxymoron. But I have to think that some independents, if they're going, okay, then they have to stop and think, Trump might not make it through all 4 years. And would I want JD Vance or would I want Tim Walz? I got to think, because of the age, that at least it's a partial consideration on some level.
You would think so. Yeah. If there's ever been a cycle where that might be the case, I would think then again, Yeah, that might have also played a role. Actually, 2008 when you had McCain versus Obama, and McCain at that point was the oldest candidate we'd ever had, I think. Right? He was older. He was even older than Bob Dole, and Bob Dole was pretty old when he ran. When he was the nominee, I should say, to be more precise. Um, you know, and Sarah Palin was such a disaster. Um, but yeah, so yeah, you might be onto something there, because certainly no one was, because some people, now I don't agree with this, but some people to this day insist that Palin actually cost McCain that election. I don't believe that's true. I think Obama would have won even if McCain had picked a better Veep. But it might have been a closer race, but I think Obama would have won regardless. But I think in 2008 that might have played a role, and I think you might be onto something. I think in this instance, yeah, people might be thinking about that. Independents might be thinking about that. Who do they trust? Because, like you were talking about earlier, polling shows they trust Walz more than Vance. So that may be a factor.
They didn't spell out all of it, but you know that if 58% chose Walz, that some lower number was split between Vance and undecided. I would never assume it was 58 to 42.
Right.
It's going to be 58 to 40 or 30 with 12% undecided or whatever. It's not just a two-way split. It's always a three-way split in these things.
Yeah, of course.
Excuse me.
Oh.
So, now, correct me if you, obviously, I shouldn't say correct me, but, obviously, I want to hear if you have a differing perspective on this. I mean, I did feel like Harris did try to at least discuss some policy. Trump discussed zero actual policy in the debate. She did talk about this credit and the housing. And I mean, she tried to lay some stuff out.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And Trump laid nothing out.
Well, Trump, in Trump's defense, he did have concepts of a plan. He just didn't have any actual plans.
You mean that 9-year-old dusty concept that was going to be ready next week, 9 years ago?
Which one? Infrastructure Week? Is that the one you're thinking? There's so many.
I was thinking healthcare, but
Oh, right. It was going to be better than ever. We were also going to have great climate. Yeah, no, I mean, she did introduce some policy, but I don't remember that much. I mean, but she also, she took time to say things like, and I really enjoyed this, by the way. This is not a criticism of her, when she said, go to Trump's rally and you'll see people leaving out of exhaustion and boredom. There were some.
Yeah,
she was good. She did really well in that debate. I was impressed. I thought right in the very beginning of that debate, I thought she seemed a little nervous. I could hear it was subtle. I could hear just a slight shaking in her voice, like she was a little bit nervous. But once she found her groove, she stayed in it. She was, I thought, she exceeded expectations. She did better than I thought. And Trump was Trump. Trump was exactly how he always is.
I'm pretty sure it was Wanda Sykes. I saw a little funny thing Wanda Sykes did. I saw her both independently. What did I say? Wrong?
Skypes.
Oh, Sykes.
We're actually using StreamYard, Dr. Kevin, not Skype.
So,
no, I love Wanda Sykes. Jenny and I are both big fans. She's very funny.
So I don't know if you heard this bit, because she also then repeated it on The View, and I thought Whoopi Goldberg was going to fall off her chair. She was laughing so hard when she said, I watched her go on that stage, and that debate stage, and she called him a mother blankety blank. And she goes, and I stopped it and rewound it because I was like, did she actually say that out loud? And then I realized she just said it with a look, but everyone heard it.
Yeah, because there's that moment where she
Yeah.
stops herself. She says, "This former president," or however she said it. Yeah. But it was so obvious she wanted to use an expletive. Oh, it was funny. And I think she did that on purpose. I don't think she was actually about to say it and really stop. I think that was probably planned. She probably thought that would be a cool thing to do, and she pulled it off very well. But it was a great moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely one of my favorite moments. I
Yeah.
The way that she handled stuff, I felt like I almost feel like you've been getting a little bit of coaching from Obama, because she presented so much better than she did when she was in the running back in, was
Oh,
going to be a
against
candidate
Mike Pence.
when she was, yeah, but when she dropped out, I'm talking about like when she dropped out when they had all those
Oh,
Democratic candidates and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
She 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 didn't show any of her humor, almost like that was a vulnerability or something. She was almost it was hard to see her as likable. And
Yeah.
I think her likability rating has gotten better, which is just some first
Oh, yeah.
class media training, because she's got a twisted sense of humor, and the woman is actually funny. But I think back when she was trying to run to be the nominee before she became the vice president candidate, and even then, um, and I look at this as, when women try to insert humor into situations like that, they're discarded because they're women as being silly and not serious.
Yes.
And I think that maybe part of it was her years as vice president, maybe some of it was media coaching. I thought it was very interesting that one of her primary coaches to get ready for this debate was Pete Buttigieg.
Hmm.
I don't know if Obama was even involved, but what I saw was her becoming comfortable with her humor and her human side. And instead of looking at it as many women are forced to, that become professional as if it's a handicap, I
Hmm.
felt like she leaned into it in a way that made her more likable.
Yeah, I agree. Um, One of the criticisms of her, one of the vulnerabilities, before she became the nominee, even among a lot of Democrats, was the laughing, because there have been instances of her weirdly laughing at oddly inappropriate times, but I think it's really only happened a couple of times. But then,
Yep.
of course, people who don't like her, they refer to those same, and that happens in politics. It happens in life generally. People see or they hear something once or twice, and then it becomes, there's almost a Mandela effect with it, where it just becomes as though this one thing that might have happened once or twice just happens all the time. And that kind of became the rap on her, was that, oh, she just laughs all the time and it's weird and it's goofy. And to be fair, grain of truth, there have been a couple, like there was again, this was like back early in the war, where when Russia first invaded Ukraine, and she was at an event talking about aid to Ukraine, and she laughed at a weird moment. So there have been a couple of odd moments along the way, but they try to make it seem like she's like that all the time. But she may have become a little bit self-conscious about that at certain points. And now but to your point, she does seem much more just generally comfortable now. There's also been times in the past where there's been some word salad moments, not nearly to the degree of Trump, of course, but she's become far more disciplined in terms of how she speaks, and answering things more succinctly. She might still be feeling a little bit vulnerable because she's still not doing a lot of direct interactions with the media, which is interesting. But I think overall she's a lot more comfortable than she was, and I think she probably has had some some significant coaching, and maybe Obama's involved. I don't know. Of course, if you ask a Republican, they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, Obama's in control of everything. Obama's still secretly the president," but they like their conspiracies.
So, yeah, I mean, I think she's come a long way and has grown more comfortable in her skin, and that has helped. And with that whole approach, I mean, I love what Tim Waltz did when he basically created weird as the way to describe, because it's a perfect word and everybody got it and everybody used it, and it was so simple.
Yeah.
And taking it on. So to the Jack Smith stuff, have you had a chance to read any of that the unsealed documents?
I haven't had a chance to read any of it. I've seen and listened to. I was listening to a podcast about it, actually. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bulwark, their YouTube channel. They cover a lot of this stuff. They're former Republicans, never Trump Republicans. Yeah, I mean, it's none of it surprises me. I mean, I kind of already, but now we know that he actually said the words, like when told that the vice president was in danger, that Pence was in danger, and he said, "So what?" I mean, we kind of already knew that he doesn't care about Mike. I don't think he cares about anyone but himself. I think he's a sociopath. But so we kind of already knew that. But now, now it's in there. It's in the record that he really just did not care. They could have hanged Pence, and he probably would have been fine with it. Anyone who complained about it, he just would have said what he said to Kevin McCarthy. Well, I guess they're more bothered about the election than you are, Kevin. Not you, Kevin, Kevin McCarthy. So it's actually, none of it's shocking in a sense, but hopefully it's shocking enough to some independents who might have been leaning his way, who are hopefully going to rethink that, because the guy's just a POS, and this just kind of reaffirms all of that, all the things that we already knew about him. But what's sad is, MAGA people won't be bothered by any of it. I would imagine most Trump supporters, will say, well, either no, Trump never really said that, that's a lie being told by the deep state, or they'll just say, well, yeah, of course, Pence did deserve to be hanged. He's a traitor. He didn't, just award the election to the risen Christ, Donald John Trump. So, so it won't make any difference there. But hopefully any independents who are kind of on the fence, hopefully this puts them firmly against Trump once and for all, I hope.
Well, and the other thing is that I really think that as this stuff comes up, that there may be because we have watched the that you are watching some of the less vitriolic, less probably less indoctrinated, that there have been MAGAs that have peeled off a little around the edges.
Sure.
You see these people and they're kind of going, when I voted, I really thought, and you start to see these come up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is that I have to wonder if some of the people that are yawning, getting bored, walking out, that are getting the constant onslaught of actually having to look at the words that he said and go, yeah, it actually doesn't, but they can't actually come out and say, okay, yes, I was fooled or whatever, I think there's a possibility some of them won't go to the polls to vote.
Maybe because you can abstain from voting and nobody has to know.
Yep.
But if you have that epiphany and you snap out of it and you decide to leave the cult and you start telling people, you start posting on social media, hey, I'm done with this guy or whatever, then you're going to get judged by your peers. Part of the problem is I believe people don't talk about this part of it enough. Why we have such tribalism in this country, why we're so divided, is because people choose their sides and then they become, whether they realize it or not, whether it's conscious or unconsciously or subconsciously, nobody wants to. It's like high school. High school never really ends. No one wants to be the uncool kid. No one wants to be unwelcome at the lunch table they're used to sitting at. So, even someone who snaps out of it and says, oh yeah, okay, I finally get it. Yeah, Trump is a fundamentally malevolent individual. They're not going to tell their friends that. They're not going to tell their MAGA friends, because then their friends are going to go, oh, what are you, a woke liberal now? Ooh. So people are, and by the way, you see this phenomenon on the left as well. It's not just on the right. People don't want to. That's why on social media, nobody ever, says, you'll rarely see or hear anyone say, okay, I agree with this. I agree with this party on most things, but here's one thing that I think my side gets wrong. Here's one thing that I think my side, I don't think they're quite, I actually agree with the other side on this one issue. You don't see a lot of that. People think it. People can't possibly be such automatons that they just blindly agree with absolutely everything that they think that their peer group does. But people just don't say it out loud because they're afraid of the judgment of their peer group.
And we're starting to wrap up. I mean, we are at time, but we did start a couple minutes late. And I do want to, here is an interesting phenomenon that I'm experiencing. And in fact, it happened right when we were on the show. So like, you try to have a respectful disagreement with somebody that and I have a policy. If I put out a meme and I haven't properly researched it, and somebody comes to me and points it out, and I research it, and I'll research it, I'll look at it, and I'll go, okay, you're right. I will thank them for pointing it out, and B, I remove it. I go, I don't want to be spreading disinformation.
Yeah.
But there have been 2 or 3 people lately who I know we don't politically agree, but I call them out when they print disinformation. Like somebody had this meme that basically was indicating that what Harris said, and I'm intentionally saying Harris because I really get that there is this subtle power differential with all the male candidates. You don't call him Joe and you don't call him Don Old.
Right.
But you're calling her Kamala. And there's this subtle messaging of power differential. You call somebody by their last name when you respect them, and you call them by their first name when they're, so.
There's another way to look at that, though. That can also be done out of affection. I say Kamala because I like her, because she's saving us from what I assumed was going to be Trump winning re-election when Biden was still the candidate. So I'm not, I totally respect her. So there's different reasons why people do that. When people did that with Hillary too, I think it was because if you say Clinton, people assume you mean Bill, because he had already been president. So people started calling her Hillary because that way there's no confusion about which Clinton you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think there's other. I take your point, Kevin, but I do think there are other reasons why people do that too.
Well, but you notice that all of the hard right MAGA media always not only say her name, but consistently mispronounce it. But
of course,
that's why I've started, again, this for me, say Harris. But so somebody that I know in person, I see them face to face, posted something, and it was basically implying that when Harris was on the interview that she did with Oprah, which I thought was pretty good.
Jenny and I watched that at an event here in Manchester, in fact. Yeah.
Yep. And and she's done MSM, and now Trump has backed out of 60 Minutes, but she's still going to do it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, he backed out of 60 Minutes, but she's still going to do it. Is that she said if somebody broke in there into her house, she would shoot him or shoot them, but the meme portrays it as she said she would kill them, meaning that her possessions were more important than human life.
Oh God, somebody tried to twist it that way, really?
Oh yeah. And so I called it out, and I said, did you actually watch it? No. I said, well, this meme is disinformation. And this is what she said. I watched it. I was too lazy. But they left the meme up. And then I said, when you find a meme as disinformation, I said, I said, I know I choose to take it down because I don't have to use disinformation to support who I'm promoting. And they got all snitty, but they didn't take it down.
Of course. Because they don't care about being right. They care about their peer group thinking that they're right.
Yep.
They don't actually care about being right. That doesn't matter to them.
But somebody just posted who I know face to face, but has been a fairly recent business contact type of friend, and they've just peeped this. They just post these outrageous things, and they're not even more political. They're more like climate change is a hoax and blah blah. And every time they do, I call it out. Like, that's not true. Here is the thing, and they at first would remove the post. And maybe because we were business contacts, maybe because they're hoping to do business with me and make money off me. I don't know. But when they did the last one where they showed two pictures from a distance of the Statue of Liberty from like 1998 to now or whatever, and said something about, basically inferring, well, if there's such a climate change, why, why is her feet not in the water or whatever? I don't even remember. It was stupid. Like, from a distance, you would see 2 inches of water higher on one than the other. Like, it was so stupid.
That's pretty ignorant, even for a climate denier. That's extra dumb. Yeah.
So I called it out, and I actually called it out, and I said, hey, first of all, the amount that it's changed would never show on that photograph. Right. And if you think this is evidence that there's no climate change, and because all these people were like, amen, blah, blah. And I said, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. And, and I went back. They just texted me and said, would you do me a favor and unfriend me? They're tired of me keeping them accountable.
Yeah.
And all I said was, my pleasure, unfriend. Like, why didn't you unfriend me? It goes both ways.
Yeah, that's a weird thing too, to text someone and say, would you do me a favor and unfriend me?
Yeah. Anyways, we got to wrap this up.
Okay.
I got a life. You got a life. Let me know when you're in Nashua. I will see you.
I will be in Nashua on Wednesday to go with you.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to see you Wednesday night.
Yes.
So if you can try to get to my house by 4:30, I'll text you the address.
Perfect.
It's very close to me. I'll show you my kitchen, and then we can just take one car down, and then I'll just drive you back afterwards.
Sounds great. Yeah. Awesome. I love it.
Give my best to Jenny.
I will. All right. Thanks, Dr. Kevin. Bye, everybody.